In the last video, we looked at the various preferences and options that you can change to customize how Premiere behaves. With that being said, what I'd like to do is show you some preferences that you may want to consider changing right out of the gate. So again, let's return to the Preferences dialog box. Here on the Mac, you'll come up to the Premiere Pro menu, and from there you'll choose Preferences. And what I'd like to do is go into the General section. Now, if you're on a Windows machine, again, you'll go to the Edit menu. You'll select Preferences, and then you can choose General. Of course, you can always use the keyboard shortcut, which is Command, comma. It would be Control, comma on Windows. So here, inside the Preferences dialog box, there's a couple things that I want to point out. Now, in the United States, most video plays around 30 frames per second. Of course, there are situations where that's different, like 24 frames per second, and even a little bit less than that. But if you want to create transitions inside of Premiere, the default duration will be 30 frames, so it's about a second. Depending upon where you are in the world, you may want to reduce this so your video transitions by default are only half a second long. So here I can type in 15. If you're in Europe or Australia, you may be typing in something like 12 frames. The same is true for audio transitions, but Premiere looks at audio in seconds, not frames. So here you can simply type in 0.5. And if you add a lot of images to your Premiere projects to create slideshows or something else, you can always increase or decrease the number of frames that still will have when you drop it into a sequence. Now, don't be alarmed. All of these options can be changed as you edit. If you decide, as you're editing, that the video transition needs to be longer, well, just make it longer. These are just the defaults. So those are some changes that I want to make right away. Something else that you should be aware of is you can come over to the Appearance category. Here in the Appearance category, you can control the brightness of the interface. If you click and drag this to the right, you'll notice that the interface is getting lighter. And you can make it as light as you want it. Likewise, you can make it as dark as you want. I'm going to go ahead and click Default. I'm happy with that shading. So I just wanted to control those preferences. You can come down and click OK to exit out of this dialog box. Something else that I want to take a look at is this project panel here. You'll notice that I have a couple different folders, and these folders are referred to as bins. Now, I like working in this icon view. In order for you to look at what's inside of this video bin, chances are you'll double-click. And if you double-click, it opens up a new bin, a new free-floating window. Now, as you can imagine, this could get pretty chaotic pretty quickly. So another option, if you come over and close this new window, you can hold down the Command key on the Mac, Control on Windows. Then when you double-click, you'll enter that bin within that panel. Now, how do you get back to where you were? Well, there's a little icon here that lets you go up a level. And if you click it, you'll be able to return back to that original view. Now, this is somewhat alleviated if you come over and choose the List view, because you can always expand a particular bin. But if you're like me and you like working in the icon view, you may forget that you have to hold down the keyboard shortcut when double-clicking the bin. So as you're working, you're probably going to end up with these windows all over the place. Fortunately, there's a preference to handle that. So again, return back to the Premiere Pro menu and choose Preferences. Of course, if you're on the Windows side, you'll go to the Edit menu and choose Preferences, and then you'll select General. You'll notice in the General Preferences, we have an option here in terms of how we deal with bins. And if you double-click right now, the default behavior is to open in a new window. Well, what we can do is choose either Open in Place or Open in a new tab. A new tab is a nice option because a new tab will just appear within this docked area. I prefer In Place. I think it's easy to navigate once you have this little icon here. And if you want, at that point, you could choose Open in New Window or Tab based upon these modifier keys. So it's completely up to you. It all depends on how you want to work. Those are some settings I like to control right out of the gate as I start working inside of Premiere. But again, it's really a personal preference. We'll take a look at more preferences in context throughout the course.